All right, we're live on my YouTube channel. I don't know what this thing is on now. We're timed out. But good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kimball Evans. I'm your trap therapist, and you are now tuning into the Trap Lounge, where I come on here every Wednesday with some psychoeducation, just some information about mental health, illness, and conditions and awareness. Um, with a topic each Wednesday that I'm on. Last Wednesday's topic was a wonderful topic. We talked about single women in the workforce, how often face unique mental health challenges, including burnout. And the workforce is a dominating field for men. It's always been that way. But I was going to have a special guest on, Mrs. Washington. She will be on the 13th, I believe. The 13th. That's the next Wednesday. In this month, she will be on. I don't know. I don't want to stop it. I'm scared if I start it up again, it'll start acting up. And that's what it's doing, acting up. So our topic this week is just, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. You see, I changed my profile pictures. The ribbon for that is green. Just giving you some information. It's not going to be the general thing that I do every, May around mental health. I took some time to check out where we were in our mental health field to where we are at now in the mental health field, and how things have changed and some things are creeping back in on us. But before we get into tonight's topic, let's get into our midweek check-in. I was able to check it today. Miss Carla had some black hearts up there, and Miss Valerie Moore said she was feeling optimistic and uplifting, which there was the orange heart. Miss Carla was either angry or sad. She'll let me know when she comes on tonight. She usually try to tune in. So what I put up there? I put that up there. I think I put up there that I was okay. And then I put a pink one up there. I don't think I put the pink one up there. What the pink one say? Harmony. Yeah, no, wasn't pink. Well, I know I put that I was frustrated today. Hey, Miss Marjorie, how are you this evening? I was frustrated, but then I was actually doing okay. You can have two of them in one day. The morning around 11:30ish, I was frustrated. Um, I'm doing some remodeling on the house. I'm not doing it, but the house is getting remodeled. And so delivery people are coming, contractors are coming, and I was supposed to get some wood to come in to do the upstairs floors. And the guy came down the street with a big construction truck with this pallet on it, with all this material on it. And now, mind you, it was raining today. And I'm like, where are you putting that at? Because you can't leave that out on the pavement. And so I said, well, wait a minute, let me go inside so I can get the information so I can call him. Because he's like, that's all they told me to do was drop it off. And he said, normally when I drop it off like this, it's going into someone's garage. I said, do you see a garage anywhere around here? Yeah. So I was frustrated. And then my day went great because he was such a great man. He was a man of God. Thank you, Lord, for sending your man of God to my home. Someone that was like, listen, I wouldn't, want my wife to go through this. So he took every single box off of that pallet and put it on my porch. So that made me be in a great mood. However, my sister was saying they're going to tell you that you need to put the boxes inside your house so it can get room temperature. So now I have to call them tomorrow and let them know that they did not bring the boxes inside my house and they will not be room temperature. And so what should I do after that? Because time is money. And I already paid my money. You're going to give me your time. Okay. All right. And then there's dust everywhere. Guys, I got a little, it's not OCD, they said, I got a little perfectionist thing going. So it's dust everywhere downstairs. The dog wants to go into the kitchen. The cat wants to come upstairs. My living room looks atrocious. But when my kitchen gets done, I'm going to be in there baking, baby. I'm going to be baking. I done bought some fancy little kitchen things, a bread maker. My bestie told me to buy a bread maker so I can start making my own bread. So I'm going to be hooking some stuff up in my new kitchen. I love to cook. I love to cook. I wish my grandma was here to come over and critique the kitchen, but then cook in the kitchen. So let's go today with our midweek check-in. If you're doing great, put some red hearts up there. If you're doing great, some red hearts. If you're doing okay, this is blue, not purple. If you're doing okay, put some blue hearts up there. Mellow yellow, if you're doing mine. Yellow hearts it can be. Mine, yellow hearts. I'm just so sick of TikTok is not giving me a good sense. It's the third week. If things are tough and you're struggling, put some green hearts up there. If things are tough and you are struggling, put some green hearts up there. I do check my DMs. I check my messages box. I check my emails. All the things that you can get in contact with me. I check every day on a daily basis. If you're having a hard time and you wouldn't mind if someone else to reach out to you, this is purple. You can put a purple heart up there. If you don't want to talk about it on the live or in the comment sections, again, just DM me and I'll get right back to you. If you're having some harmony in your life and balance in your life, you can put the pink heart up there, harmony and balance in your life, put the pink heart up there. This is the broken heart emoji. If you're in a really dark place, put the broken heart emoji up there. If you're in a really dark place, put the broken heart emoji up there. Miss Valerie Moore, again, she was feeling optimistic and uplifting. She commented in the chat when I put the midweek check up there, she was feeling optimistic and uplifting. If you're cool and self-restraint with some humbleness, we always got to be humble. I was humble today. Thank you, Lord. Cool and self-restraint with some humbleness, put the gray emoji heart up there. If you was having a day like this, put the brown emoji heart up there. I was not going there with this. No, sir. No, sir. If you were having a day like this, put the brown emoji heart up there. We have days like that. We do. To be funky. Just be funky. We be in our funk. It's the funkiness of it. If you're having mixed feelings, some blankness, if you did minimum today, whatever that was, but you got through the day, put the white emoji heart up there. The white emoji heart. If you were feeling relaxed and friendly, this is a light blue emoji heart. Put the light blue emoji heart up. Again, the flaming heart. If you were frustrated at any time today, as I was, thank the Lord for him sending me a believer. If you were frustrated at any time of the day, put the flaming heart up there. And if you had some anger and sadness going on, and I do want to mention that Ms. Carla put the black heart up there, some anger and sadness going on, we talk about this. This is the one that we don't like to talk about. And I believe my therapist said yesterday how well I was dealing with some anger. And he was like, "Are you grieving it?" And I said, I have already grieved it. It's already lost. So when you're in my ship and I say, I don't have control over something, I don't have control over anything, and I can't help you, now I'm allowing you to try to figure that thing out. I no longer have control over it. And that's when the frustration and anger, whatever those mixed feelings get between when there's a dispute and you don't see eye to eye, when that gray and black and white don't really mix, it's all collided together, a loss of control. And when I feel like I lost control, I just put my hands up. First of all, God, take the wheel, take the whole car. Take the whole car. I'm learning to let him drive. Not like them driverless cars, when the passengers in it, but Jesus, take the wheel, take the whole entire car. Use it, Lord, use it. Again, my name is Kimball Evans. I'm your trap therapist. I'm on here every Wednesday at 8:30 at night. This is the only time I can get to come on. Is at night or on Saturdays, and my Saturdays are like kind of tied up. But I love doing this. I've been doing this for the past 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, it's almost 5 years. I think 5 years now I've been doing this. She's been a great joy. So today we're talking about mental health awareness, and May is mental health awareness again. It's the green ribbon. I was going to go all the way deep into it, but I didn't want to do that. Like, where did mental health come from? How was it started? Who was the therapist? That's school, right? That sounds like you're in school, and I did not want it to sound like you were in school. So I simply got some verbiage that we may know, we may not know, some information, and then again, where we were to where we are at now. And things might be changing back to possibly where we were. And when I tell you about this, guys, you're not going to like it. I don't like it now. Right. So one term I did not know that was used when it was around mental health was mental hygiene. Mental hygiene. And when I read the term mental hygiene, I immediately went to something dirty, something unclean. When something's dirty, unclean, smelly, foul, you stay away from it. Or back in the day, if something was dirty or unclean, you isolated it. So the term mental hygiene has a long history in the United States, having been first used by William Siltzer, and it was in 1843. So that was way before any of my generation's time, way before their time, 1843. So mental health has evolved from ancient supernatural interpretations, viewing illness as demonic possessions, to modern biological and psychosocial models. So in the beginning, all the way back then, it was something that was supernatural that was happening, witches, ghouls, goblins, all those things. And then either if they seen something that was weird or somebody was talking outlandish, it was a demonic possession. And so in the 19th century, moral treatment started happening, and asylum systems. It was a shift to community-based care and deinstitutionalized in 1960. So in the 19th century, there was asylums, psychiatric places where they put people that they could not let out. And then by time, the turn in the 1960s, there were community-based care, and they started to deinstitutionalization of asylums. So I'm going to give you some periods in time that happened with mental health, right? Ancient and medieval eras, they saw mental illness as, again, supernatural, caused by gods. I'm going to use the little g here, the little g, not the capital G with the OD on here, caused by gods, sin, or evil spirits back in the ancient and medieval eras. Treatments, how did they treat the people that had mental illness? Treatment included exorcisms, prayer, temporalization or surgical procedures. That means cutting in the scalp, a hole into the human skull to treat the health condition. Remember, my line is always, when you're dealing with a mental health condition, an illness, or diagnosis, whatever, because there's different phases of it. We all deal with mental health. We all deal with it every single day. A mental diagnosis or mental illness is something that is got diagnosed by a psychiatrist or psychologist. You can have maybe your primary doctor maybe can rule something out, but we deal with mental health every single day. Our well-being, how we feel in the morning, how we express ourselves, how we can cope with things. We deal with it. That's our mental health. But I used to say when I first, and I still say it, dealing with your mental health, you have to speak, you have to talk, because it's not like you can take blood and say, okay, that's depression in here. This is, if you take this pill, you can get rid of it. It's not done by any kind of test that you can do with diabetes, high cholesterol, all the health issues. You can't do a test like that. So I would say we can't go and cut inside your brain and take that piece out. Oh, that right there is the piece that's causing this person's depression or bipolar, the mood swings. We can't do that. But back in the medieval and ancient times, they did a temporizations, which is a surgical procedure, again, cutting, scraping a hole into the human skull to treat health conditions by relieving intracranial pressure. Listen, the brain is so delicate. That's why our creator wrapped it in a thick skull, and in that skull, it's in water, it's in a fluid. You know, when babies are born, they have that soft spot there in their head. You're not supposed to touch it. You know, you can't shake a baby, but so you're not supposed to shake a baby at all. Don't shake the baby. Even when an adult, you shake, you know, something's going to happen. So they thought by cutting into the skull and relieving the intracranial pressure, this was 10,000 years ago, that it would help with the mental illness. Trial and error, right? Now, the asylum movement, this was in the 17th and the 19th century. Insane asylums was established initially to confine the mentally ill, but by the 1800s, figures like Dorothea Dix, an American advocate on behalf of the poor and mentally ill, pushed for these asylums to be closed down. She also pushed for treatment for mental illness as a medical condition rather than, get this, a crime. So in the 17th and 19th centuries, mental illness was considered a crime. So you go from having mental illness in the 1800s, demonic possession, being unclean. Now you have it as being a crime. So Dorothy also pushed for moral treatment, focusing on kindness, sunshine, and human care. You would say, why sunshine? Well, because if it's a bright, nice, sunshiny day, you might, get outside, get some of the sun on you. Feel the rays, listen to the birds, listen to the nature, and it might bring you to a peaceful zen, might. But back then they thought about the sunshine and human care. Then you had that mental movement called the mental hygiene movement. That was from 1908 and up. That movement is sought to improve hospital conditions and focus on prevention. So just be clear. The ancient and the medieval eras and an asylum movement did not focus on any treatment or prevention. They were doing experiments on people. People back then were even more shameful to have a person in their family have any mental condition at a period. Lock my family member away. I don't want to hear anything about them. I'll pay you. Just make sure they're locked away and they can't get out. But in 1908, it was a movement sought to improve hospital conditions and start focusing on prevention for mental health. So they got a little bit more evidence. They got a little bit more experience what was going on with people. Now, it was a guy, his name was Clifford W. Beers. His first episode dealing with bipolar disorder triggered an illness. It was triggered by illness. He was sick. And then it was also triggered by, he had a death of his brother. His brother committed suicide. Now, Clifford was in a hospital for 3 years straight. The only hospital I know that they still have up that was considered back then an insane asylum is Norristown State Hospital. And believe me, people are still people in Norristown State Hospital that you don't want to be loosed. So he was in the hospital for 3 years, but there was deficiencies all through his care. It was cruel. It was inhumane treatment. He was placed in a straitjacket for 21 days straight. If anybody can remember back in the day what a straitjacket looked like, it either crossed you here and you could not move in it at all. You could not move. So how are you going to eat? How are you going to relieve yourself from going to the bathroom? He was in a straitjacket for 21 days. So by the time of 1960s, look how long ago that was. Look how long ago that was. By the time of 1960, they started to deinstitutionalize these asylums. They went into a lot of the asylums and they seen that people were being mistreated, people were being abused, people were dying. There was sexual abuse going on in these places. Patients were abusing other patients. It was insane. And I know Barberry was not an insane asylum, but Barberry had are individuals who has IDD now, which is the individuals with the intellectual developmental disabilities. They closed down Barberry as well. You still do have places that have that are hubs to help people with IDD, but the policies and restrictions and procedures have been all over. But for mental health, it goes back and forth. So they took away the institutionalization in the 1960s, and that still happened to the present. And they started with community mental health centers. And it was an act of 1963 in the United States. It began to shift the care from large, overcrowded institutions to small community settings. And you will see them maybe packed in different areas of the city. I know there is one near Broad, I believe that's Broad and Popular. There is a community living place there for people that have mental health illness. Good morning, good evening, Evangelist Rhonda. Holocaust. There is also one somewhere in South and West Philly. I know because people call and they'll say they're at a CLA or they're at a residential home, and they'll call. And so these smaller places with little bit of people in it, with maybe 24-hour staffing, or maybe they just got to the point where they were independent, they can live on their own. Now, where we were, there was some supernatural stuff going on. People believed that back in the day, the supernatural. So it was divine punishment or possession, demonic possession. Then you had the somatic, genetic, physical issues. So these are things that happen with your DNA. It's from generation to generation. Like they say, schizophrenia, it bounces from if your mom has it, it'll hit your third generation. It'll hit the third generation. So it will skip the daughter, and it might go to the grandchildren. That's how they see schizophrenia from doing these tests. So somatic, genetic, physical issues, it deals with the brain. They do tests on the brain. So if a person passes and they ask their family, can we take the brain and look at the brain and see how the brain was reacting, as opposed to somebody that didn't have schizophrenia, or as opposed to somebody that had schizophrenia and that was taking their medications properly, and try to figure those things out. But the brain gets damaged, or it's genetic imbalances come with the somatic, genetic physical issues. Then you had the psychogenetic. That's just a basic term for stress, trauma, or maladaptive learning. If you are in a toxic, bad environment, you're going to have some maladaptive learning to do. If your parents never paid you any mind, they just fed you, put you, got some clothes on you, and dropped you off because they were working every time, they wouldn't be the nurturing kind. They wouldn't be the nurturing kind. So you would maybe grow up not knowing when someone wants to love on you, because you probably never received that from your parents. Or if it was a house that was full of shout and screaming and negativity all the time, you would probably grow up either doing the same thing, shouting and screaming, or be antsy, fearful, jittery. Now, there's a long-standing stigma surrounding mental disorders. It involves a deeply ingrained negative stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination that have persisted for the millennia. So this still is going on. Hey, Miss Carter. It is a major barrier to care, causing shame, social isolation, and reluctance to seek treatment, often forcing individuals to hide their conditions. And these stigmas is fueled by misconceptions. And I'm saying this now because it's a lot of our young people that have been diagnosed with the mental illness. So these are misconceptions of a dangerousness and incompetence or personal weakness when someone is diagnosed with a mental illness. Imagine being 18, 21, 23. And that's the onset. They say that's the onset sometimes when you're dealing with mental illness, especially for schizophrenia. It's gonna be onset. It's gonna happen around 18 to 25. Now, if you get it diagnosed at a later age, they'll let you know something must have been dormant maybe, or it's a chemical imbalance. What happened in the brain? But if a person that young is diagnosed with something that they already hear people talking about, they're dangerous, they're incompetent, they're weak. Treatment is not going to help because nobody ever told them about treatment. Treatment is not just taking medications. It's not taking medications. Treatment, again, for mental health is talking about with the things that you struggle with. How are you going to cope? How are you going to interact with people? How well you do? And changing whatever that thing was environmentally, emotionally, psychologically, changing those thoughts, those things. And so a lot of our young people, they are more of a revolving door than I can say my mom's generation. I can say that I'm going to be honest because I dealt with my mom when she was in her mental illness, when it was heavy. Um, they were pushing pills back then. It's not the pineal gland; it's the frontal lobe. And that's somebody on YouTube. Um, they were pushing medications back in the mid '80s, the early '70s. They were pushing medications. So if you had depression, they would shove these pills. Take these happy pills; it'll make you feel much better. And they didn't care about whatever the side effects was, as long as you felt better. And so my mom was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And I didn't know what that was at the time. But by the time I got in school, I was like, wow, this is real. This is really intriguing. And this is a problem that I feel we had to help my mom solve. My mom was on 24 different medications. And the doctor told my grandma, as long as she takes the medications, she will be fine. But my mom would say, this medication is making my hair fall out. This medication is giving me diarrhea. This medication, I can't sleep. This medication making me feel stuck. But my grandma thought as long as you take those medications, you will be okay. And so my mom was never in an insane asylum, but she was in every single inpatient hospital in Philadelphia. And sometimes far out, depending on if it was a 302, which turned into a 303. Not getting to all of that, just a longer stay. So they was pushing medications in my mom's generations. Mental health started getting so prevalent that anybody that had any gruesome crime, like the guy that beat the woman to death on a bus, the guy that hit somebody in the head with the hammer on a train, the people that do these mass shootings, everything with the news is they have to have a mental health issue. That's not always the case. And so if the young people see, I don't want that to be me. I don't want people to look at me different. I'm not dangerous. I'm not incompetent, and I'm sure not weak. And they are the show me people. These children now, the ones that are young adults, they are the show me people. You can't just sit them down and say, this is what it is. Read it. If it's in a book, it might be true. No, you have to show them. Not only do you have to show them, they have to make sure they trust you. Because I will tell you, when you go into a crisis response center, it's not a fun place to go. If you ever been there, if you ever took a family member there, if you ever were there for yourself, it's not a fun place to go. It's dreary. They make you feel like you're in jail. Some of the staff is just the worst staff ever. They don't care. They burnt out. They've been there forever. So some of the doctors as well. And so I say, if your child, and they're so young now. I had somebody call and say, my son needs to be 302. Okay, ma'am, let's talk about what's going on with your son. They tell me all the things going on with her son. Well, how old is he? 7. This baby just learned how to tie their shoes and put their own clothes on. Now you want to mark them with the mental health illness or condition? Think about that. There is a lot of young kids that grew up, that's grown now, that will not be able to get a license to carry. They might not be able to get into any service, the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the Special Forces. They cannot get because they are deemed mentally incompetent because they were 302. So if you have friends, maybe children that was diagnosed with ADHD, and some people were doing that, committing, I say fraud. There's nothing wrong with the child. You just don't have the proper teachings from at home. And you're letting people diagnose your children with these bizarre mental conditions when you just have to properly teach them at home. But I digress. So what else they was doing in the 1960s? You wrote the 1960s, right? Yeah, the 1960s. They was also combating the stigmas, trying to have some open communications, letting the families come in. That's when they start putting together these meetings for your whole team to come in. So they wanted your family, who did you live with? Let your family come in and, let them tell us a little bit more about you before they let you go. You had a treatment team and you had a whole discharge plan. That still happens and it's still crappy. Still crappy. A lot has to be done. And now a lot of people are trying to share those personal experiences. I meant to look up, and I knew I forgot something. I meant to look up the stars or celebrities that have mental illness that you don't even know about. There's so many of them that have mental illness that you don't know about, and they live a good life, a wonderful life. One person that's out there right now that's kind of going against the grain is Britney Spears. She's been on that conservatorship ship for a long time. Yes, Miss Carter said it right. Back in the day, the electric shock, that's still going on. They call it something different. The electric shock. I'll look that up for you because I had somebody call 4 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And I can remember him because he was saying they effed me up. It's some things that he can't remember. He gets angry at times. He still has the tremors. They effed him up with the electric shock. Straight jackets, they don't put you on straight jackets no more. They just put you in a padded room. Padded room. So what they try to do more is like to direct more education towards mental illness. And then what they started doing a little bit more, if you move up a little bit, from the 1960s maybe to the late 90s, is language matters. Moving away from derogatory language like using the word crazy or like they're psycho. Remember the movie Psycho? The movie Psycho, the man, Norman Bates lost his mother. He did a taxidermist on her. and put her in a corner because she was such a pivotal person in his life, but she was also abusive verbally to him. So after she died, he just went psycho. So getting away from those words, crazy and psycho. And I always used to say when somebody come in my office when I was doing outpatient, oh, they just crazy. Wait. We don't use that word. We don't use. Not here, we don't. Tell me what was going on. Tell me their symptoms. Tell me the behaviors. So while they was trying to, direct with education and, move away from the derogatory language, they try to reduce the stigma that requires societal shift for treatment. If you were considered crazy and psycho, you were in a insane asylum. You were not let out to be in a community living. Betty Davis. Was Betty Davis his mother? I'm sorry, I'm stripping Miss Scarlett. So there had to be a societal shift to treatment. Again, they tried to start seeing mental illness as a health condition. Why not? This is our brain. It's physically connected to us. Without this, we would not operate. This is the microchip that's like the SIM card in your cell phone. Without the brain, you cannot operate. Hey, Mom Terry. Justin Timberlake has a mental health disorder. I didn't know. Again, I'm going to look it up. I'll have a list next week. But I do know Britney Spears. She's battling with her mental illness because she's self-medicating. I don't know who's with her. She's off the conservatorship with alcohol. She just got arrested for a DUI. And if you didn't know, with any medication, if you're taking with any medication, it tells you not, this medication may cause you to be sleepy or lethargic. You can't operate heavy machinery. You can't take medication. I mean, you can't drink when you're having an antibiotic. It'll make you sick. You can't mix something that's supposed to help you feel better with something that's supposed to be a temporary feel better tool. Ooh. So changing the treatment options to let people view mental illness as a health condition. And I'll go a little bit further and say the people in the field also changed the way we've seen others that struggle with addiction. Because for a long time, they can stop doing whatever they were doing to get high, whatever they were doing to get that next fix, whatever it was, they can stop. And just as much as they started it, they can stop. But now they know that substance use is a disease. Why is it a disease of the mind? Because it messes with the mind. Whatever chemical, any substance, any drug that you're using, which is not supposed to be in your body. Even alcohol. Alcohol is still sold in the stores. It's legal, but you can get alcohol poisoning. You can die from alcohol. Alcohol can, if you drink so much of it, can make you have delusions and all sorts of things. So they started viewing the brain and how the brain and the chemicals would change how much somebody took of a substance of a drug. So substance use is now a disease of the brain, and now they start understanding that mental illness was a health condition. Rather than seeing this as a character flaw, remember being demonic, possessed, being called incompetent, being called weakness. So people was trying to better have people be better understood with mental health. They start emphasizing with empathy, and they was doing a lot of scientific understandings. Again, like you have people donating their organs. If they pass, some people donated their relatives' body for scientific understanding around mental health. Mind altering substances. Yes, thank you, Miss Carter. Those mind altering substances. Mm-hmm. So mental health encompasses emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It influences our cognition. It influences how we think. The perception and behavior mental health plays as a critical role in an individual's daily life when managing stress, engaging with others, and contributing to life and overall. That's what mental health encompasses. That's why I say we all deal with mental health. If something happens that stresses us out, our thought process changes, our behavior changes. If it's so much, it's going to change our mental and our minds. And I will tell you, it's been plenty of times that I thought, ooh, mm, God has cut me, honey. Let's just say that. Death, grieving. If anybody went through it, no matter who that person is in your life, you still feel the loss. It still hurts. No matter how long they've been gone, there's a hole there. Feels like something's missing. Some people can't come back from that loss. They get into that deep depression. They may have suicidal thoughts. I don't want to be here anymore. My loved one's not here. My husband's not here. My son was murdered. Whatever that loss was, they don't want to live anymore. I'm trying to count how many I had. Just think about COVID. Let's take this off of me. Just think about COVID. When COVID first hit, a lot of people had anxiety because we didn't know what it was. You was getting false information from the news. And at that time, I believe he was not number 47. He was number 45. Yeah, he was number 45. He was number 45. And he was just on the news saying all kind of landish stuff. It can be cured with bleach. Just, just drink some bleach. China gave it to us. It's a Chinese disease. All kind of language stuff. We didn't know what was going on, and this thing was worldwide. He was like COVID. And when you start reading your little Lysol spray, wait, COVID been around for a while. Then they start saying the monkeys had, and the monkeys was coming everywhere. We were literally scared, anxious, worried. And then when people start dying, our loved ones started dying, and we couldn't go and be with them. They had to be quarantined. You couldn't be with them. And then if your loved one had COVID, now you got to figure out if you're next, if you're going to get it, and if you're going to pass. Everybody anxiety was up and down, and then you had depression start sitting there. Because you couldn't interact with nobody, you couldn't hug nobody, for 3 years, there was no Thanksgiving, no Christmas, no nothing. You had to stay in your own home. Kids had to stay home being a family. A lot of people were getting divorced. They didn't know who their husband or wife was. And sometimes the people that knew who their husband and wife was missing a boo thing on the side. Tell me the person ain't set in. And then the economical part about it. People had to think, should I go to work or do I stay home with my kids? Because the kids are not in school. They got to be, do virtual schooling. You got young babies. Now it's a financial crisis because they can't go to daycare. And so if I'm not at work, I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my mortgage. I can't feed my kids. COVID was an epic thing to see how people held up. How people would do scientifically when it came to a major crisis like that. Then you had the toilet paper scare. I didn't understand it at all. Somebody tell me why the toilet paper? Why do we have to buy bundles of toilet paper? Didn't understand it. So your mental illness, the emotional, psychological, and social well-being, how we think, how we perceive things, how we behave with things, how we handle stress, how we handle our interpersonal relationships, how we handle decision making. And so I was getting some stats here, and I did not start my little clock. That's all right. That's all right. I was given some stats here. Depression rates among U.S. This is young adults. Now I'm in the where we are now. Young adults ages from 18 to 25 is a historically high rate. 18.6% or 29% are experiencing a major depressive episode annually. That's 1 in 3 young adults report a mental illness and depression. And the rates in this group have doubled since 2017. Doubled. One of the things that I hear a lot of people from 18 to 25 saying, I didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask to be here. Life is lifing them. They're on their own. Rent for a 1-bedroom is like $2,000. You have to have the first, last, and security deposit. Car insurance is high. There are no good jobs out there. We in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the minimum wage is still $7.25, even though they are paying people $12 to $15 an hour. By the time you get the taxes taken out, the medical insurance taken out, Social Security taken out, you might as well say that you're still making $7.25 an hour. And then so much overtime. People were having, I've never seen people working 2 and 3 jobs. So again, the impact on COVID-19, the pandemic, significantly impacted mental health, with roughly 1 in 5 young people reporting negative impacts, suicidal ideations. Approximately 3.8 million young adults reported serious thoughts about suicide. And there has been a rise in people of color unaliving themselves. This has been a rise. Teens from ages 12 to 17, 1 in 6, 40% of teens reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. Now, I'm going to break it down again in the silent era. The silent era was from 1928 to 1945. That was my grandmother's era. There was the Great Depression. They still had slavery still going on. There was a lot of that, going on back in still in the 1928 to 1945. Then you had your baby boomers. Your baby boomers were from 1946 to 1964. They still had civil rights movement going on. People were being lynched, people were being burned, people were being raped. Still was going on. But then they had the flower power, be at peace. Everybody love each other. He was kind of dealing with it, with mental health I'm talking about. Now, your Generation X is from 1965 to 1980. That will be moi. Generation X is the people that came and said, I know this has changed, but we need more change. And so you were getting into, people have voices and the slogans of, make sure you check in on your friends, but checking on the strong ones, it says. The strong ones too, everybody. And so then you were going to your doctor not knowing that your doctor was doing a test for depression. It's called a PHQ-9 test. They do it a little bit more rapidly now. Then you have your millennials. That's from 1981 to 1996. That is my son and my oldest daughter's era. Those were the people saying, I'm not like my ancestors. We're going to fight you back. The people that was in the riots, the people that were saying no more. Then you had the Gen Z, that's from 1997 up to 2012, and that just moved a little because again they put this up every 25 years. So Gen Z, my grandson wasn't in last year. He was in the Alpha generation, but now they moved Gen Z from 1997 to 2012. That's my grandson and my youngest daughter's era. My grandson has anxiety so much that he worries about getting a good job, being able to take care of himself. Because he's like, well, if we only making $12 an hour, and he calculating how much an apartment costs and how much eggs costs and how much he like, I'm going to be in a deficit. How am I going to live? How am I going to survive? And there with the era of new technology, making things better, faster. And then you had the Gen Alpha era, which is 2013 to 2020. Now, where we are right now, that's scary to me. If anybody paid attention to number 47's speech, the first one after his 100 days, Donald Trump said in 2025, his administration has implemented strict measures to implement a law and order approach to homelessness and focusing on mental health, increasing the use of involuntary civil commitments, and reviving the role of long-term mental institutions. See, sometimes when we hear him, he make us mad and we turn him off and we never get to hear or think about what he's saying. This man wants insane asylums to come back. And he already orchestrated the push forward in 2025. So we are a year into whatever he's doing behind the scenes that we do not know about. So this will enforce institutionalization again. And now he's going to specific population, the homeless, the unhoused, people who says they have serious mental health illness or substance addictions, to lock them into institutions, shifting away from deinstitutionalization. Again, if you have a mental illness, you are not coping well with life and the chemical imbalance in your body. You're not coping well. And a magic pill will not make it go away. Now, I'll break it down to you like this. If you're a diabetic, you might have to take insulin. And if you take your insulin, they give you a certain amount in the morning, your doctor say, and at night, check your blood sugar. And if your blood sugar a little high, you got to do it on a little sliding scale to give yourself a little bit more insulin. It's the same thing when you have depression or anxiety or schizophrenia. You have to let your doctor know, listen, with schizophrenia, one of the things could be either auditory, hearing things, or visual, seeing things, hallucinations, delusions, paranoia. And then you go to your doctor, you tell your doctor, I've been hearing this voice. I know there's nothing there, but who really tells their doctor that? Who's really that honest with their doctor? Because remember, it is a negative stigma against it. Nobody wants to be called crazy. So when my mom was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and I was reading the description, I said, well, wait a minute. I'm asking the mom, like, do you hear voices? Do you think somebody's going to harm you? She's like, I don't hear voices all the time. I'm like, all the time? Like, what? She said, and ain't nobody going to harm me because I'm going to do them in before they do me in. So I didn't know even my mom was going through that. And when she was having episodes, it wasn't because she was crazy. The chemical imbalance in her brain was not working right, no matter what medication she was on. Now, in the early 1990s, 2002, they had an injection shot. My mom was on one injection shot. a pill for sleeping. She had diabetes, so she was on insulin. But from 24 pills to taking one injection once a month and one pill, that's a miracle to me. Because my mom went through some stuff. Go to Temple. The reason why they have those metal detectors at Temple is because of my mother. I can contest to that. They had to beat her down, 9 guards and 4 police officers, because she was in there tearing the place up. And I'm like, don't hurt her, y'all. Don't hurt her. She was a 302. Don't hurt her. So, Mr. 47, he is looking for tent cities to relocate homelessness or homeless people or individuals from city streets into government sanctioned tent cities on site and special places. Now pay attention, y'all. Pay attention. Those big buildings that you see around that they're building off highways and byways and places, and they were saying they're going to build prisons over here and do this over there, and then there's this big talk about them having the tech people come in here for the AI. And a lot of people are getting upset. You can't have this in my area. What about the water usage? What about the electricity? Not all of those places are going to be used for AI. I may sound delirious or like a conspiracy theory person, but when they had Project 2025 come out, that 920 something page paper, we should have been all reading it. Because this not just affects the people that have mental illness, the people that have substance abuse. This affects our medical as well, how we get treated. How Big Pharma tells you, I'm not going to pay for that surgery. I'm not going to pay for that treatment because you don't need it. But you're paying your insurance. How people in a room dressed in suits going to tell you what you need for your treatment. So it's an unconstitutional offense of wondering. This is what he's saying. This is rationale. Sorry. This is number 47, rationale. It's an unconstitutional offense of wandering without a home, employment, or visible means of support, and it's going to be used to control and marginalize these groups. Doesn't that sound like the same thing Mia Parker was doing down KNA? Or Kensington, as they call it, because I'm from around here, so I call it KNA. I don't call it Kensington. I call it KNA. The same thing Mia Parker was doing. You can't force people into treatment. No matter how bad you want your people to be in treatment, no matter how bad you want that person to get well, no matter how bad you see that person is doing, they can be stealing, they can be robbing, they can be thieving, they can be hoeing, they can be selling their kids. You cannot force someone into treatment. And to put them and lock them away is not helping them. It's not helping them. So he's trying to put an end to legal protections. The things that we fought so hard for, what Ms. Dorothea fought for, what Mr. Beers fought for. These things that we fought so hard for. Mental health is a condition, a medical condition. It should be treated properly. We should be treating people that have mental health illnesses with empathy. We are dealing with people and not boxes. Every person that's diagnosed with schizophrenia don't have the same symptoms, the same triggers. They might not even be on the same medication. It's individualized. Just like with dementia and Alzheimer's, with sundowners, it's individualized. Just like again with diabetes, it's individualized. It doesn't go by, well, you have diabetes, you take this, you take that, you take that, all y'all take this. It's an individualized thing. So if he does this, this is going to end legal protections, plans to seek to bypass current legal restrictions of inpatient care, pushing it to make it easier to have involuntary hospitalizations for people who are deemed a danger to themselves, of others. I will tell you, we just got an email, I believe it was a week and a half ago. When anyone is trying to 302 their child, they have to go to a supervisor before they do their 302. Again, because they were seeing an uptake in 302s for children. And it's not for anything mental. There's nothing wrong with them mentally. It's a behavior. And so when it's a behavior, what do? You start where they were raised, where they were born at home. And a lot of parents want to say, no, it's not us, it's them. And sometimes it may be, but your kids watch everything you do. Don't tell your kids not to do drugs and you in the house puffing or drinking, or every Friday is a party at your house, or you going out. So the goal is to restore public order and provide humane treatment. We must keep it humane. We must keep it humane. And for those people, because we're about to have a voting thing come up, I believe in 2 weeks, I think it's on the 15th. If you don't think that voting helps, that voting counts, it does. And I'm not talking about for the big elections, for the presidents. I'm not talking about for them. We have senators and representatives in our cities that do things. Elijah was the one fighting for the 17 schools that's about to close. What are they going to do with all those children? And some of them children have either emotional plans. Nicole, you can confess to that, emotional plans, behavior plans, IEPs, and you're going to cram all these kids into schools. You're closing 17 schools. Elijah was calling for their heads. They should be fired. So from mental health, from where it was, the inhumane treatment, the having the big insane asylums. Number 47 is trying to get us right back to that. Right back to that. We don't want that. So there's groups such as the ACLU that argue that these policies are criminalized. It violates the American with Disabilities Act. Read up on that, the American Disabilities Act. If you don't have a family member that has mental health, if you don't have a family member that's struggling with addictions, if you don't have a family member that deals with emotional disturbance, that may have IDD, but these are still your people. If you under the one guy that I serve, these are still your people. Now, my mom has passed away. God rest her soul. My daddy gone too. God rest his soul. But I still fight. I still have a mouth. I still feel for people. That's my gift. That's what God gave me. So if you didn't hear anything tonight, mental health is about how we handle stress and cope with everyday life. Remember Ellen DeGeneres' DJ? This man had everything. He was getting calls for all types of, castings in clubs. And he unlived himself. Just had a close person that was on our prayer line unlived himself. I was just at a conference at my job for spiritual training. They do it every year. Everybody gets together and they talk about, the community and how you can help the community with, with the spirituality, the church and all those things. And the one thing that I left there with was the helpers, the people that always help. Who helps them? Who helps them? Because you're seeing a lot of people that are helpers. It becomes too much for them and they are unaliving themselves. So how can we fix that? He simply said, when you're having that conversation and you're going about your daily day, you'll see your neighbor, you'll see your employee, your staff, your employees up and down the hall, someone that you know that's in your department. You'll say, hey, how are you? Nice to see you. And they'll say, oh, I'm okay. Don't just leave it there. Are you really okay? Really check in. Really check in. Check in with that mother that got them 5 kids. And she yelling every morning, come on, get yourself together. Check in with her. Don't just talk about her on the street. She shouldn't handle the babies. Check in with her. Check in with the dad that's single and he got his kids. And you always see him arguing with his child's mother. Check in with him. Check in with me. Check in with me. I'm not always all right all the time. I pray about it. I lay it out. And God will have it. But I do have my support system. Check in on each other. Because it's not okay not to be okay. But it's not okay for somebody to say that they're okay and we don't check in to make sure, are you really okay? That is my show, guys. Next week, hopefully, Miss Washington will be here. We'll talk about her victory in, getting in the male-dominated job force she's in, and hear her story, and also know what work she's doing and how you can get any services from her if you can. A wonderful, dynamic woman that I've met. I enjoyed this talk. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, put them in the comments or message me and I'll get right back to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. My name is Kimball Evans. I am your trap therapist and you have been on the Trap Lounge. Good night, people. I'll hit you up here. You ain't. There you go.